morning, Tan Sri, Dato, Datin, distinguished guests of our inaugural Carbon Workshop Seminar Series. Welcome to this morning's seminar on the challenge and benefits of carbon mapping in conjunction with TUV Nord. After many months of painstaking work by hundreds of scientists from 60 countries, the 36-page 5th IPCC, which I think we all know, is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change Assessment of the State of the Global Climate, categorically concludes again that the climate change has not stopped, and again that man is still the primary cause of it. Since the onset of the European recession, there has been an almost complete collapse of the certified emission reduction units, the CERs we call them, and the European Union allowances, the EUA's prices. There has been very little progress of the UN negotiations in Copenhagen, in Cancun, and in Durban. As a result, the credibility of the entire Kyoto Protocol and the clean development mechanism has come under fire from its detractors. The integrity of the IPCC has also come into question in the wake of the glacial melt figures after allegations of improper data gathering and methodology. This is the perfect storm on the issue of climate change at a time when governments, corporations, and individuals should be pulling resources together and working towards funding a practical path to a sustainable future. After all, by 2050, the world's population is expected to reach close to 9 billion from the current 7 billion. In the intervening period, before the end of the century, scientists predict that the things could get much worse before they can get better. Even in the absence of sea level rises, extreme weather will continue to intensify and bring year-round flooding, freak storms, severe typhoons, hurricanes, and other natural disasters. In Asia, population growth, especially in the Philippines, is going to outpace that of the developed countries in the West. Although Dr. Hug of the IPCC working group said that the climate change ignores borders, there will be more vulnerable communities in Asia, and fears of stunning economic growth may strengthen the resistance of curbing emissions in this part of the world. Ironically, governments and elected officials are not necessarily working together to solve problems. The recent US standoff over the country's budget crisis demonstrates how the disagreements between leaders can change the priorities of the world's largest economy. In Australia, Tony Abbott was elected promising to repeal the carbon tax as well as to ease taxes on mining companies. All over, we are all seeing leaders and politicians compromising the hope of a sustainable future for our world in order to secure their own longevity. These are true examples of Faustian bargains. A dearth encourages moral leadership. However, all is not lost. There are remnants of people always whose faith in God as well as the understanding of being called to be steward of God's earth compel them to fight against the dark forces of environmental destruction and to dig deep to find sustainable solutions. Similarly, Sir Jonathan Porritt, my friend, predicts that there are those who will eventually come to their senses and do right for the world when disasters strike at their doorsteps. But the initial price of apathy can be all too severe for all of us. Naturally, if we study the IPCC report, we will find that it has been slightly more moderate in its assertions and assumptions this time around. Revisions have been made to prevent the bad signs of climate change. For example, it has shown that the surface temperatures over the last 20 years have not accelerated compared to the pre-1993 levels, although they have continued to rise. It is no less a concern to us when the advanced GRACE, which is Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment satellites, show that the ice sheets and glaciers around the world have all lost mass. Scientists predict that if the Greenland shelf is completely melted by the year 3000, a sea level rise of 7 meters is predicted to occur. Not surprisingly, Thomas Stocker, a working group co-chair at the IPC, asserts that what most of us have long accepted as a reality, that the continued emissions of greenhouse gases will cause further warming and changes in all components of the climate system. And naturally, limiting climate change will require substantial and sustained reductions of greenhouse gas emissions. Our hope is that the IPCC report will lead to a restoration of public faith in climate science and the chances of a new global treaty. There are seemingly endless string of natural disasters bearing out the proof and need to mitigate anthropogenic impacts on our environment. We take it as self-evident that nature will not reverse its course and repair itself until concerted efforts are made by mankind to give it room to do so. This encompasses reducing our consumption of finite resources and dealing with waste in a more responsible manner. But overall, it means in that all facets of our business and personal lives, we must reduce our emissions. However, changes in our practice without proper measuring and monitoring will not improve the situation. This is one of the main reasons why YTL has invested in the carbon consulting subsidiary, YTL-SV Carbon, and why we continue to invest in measuring and monitoring of our facilities around the globe. We also strongly support renewable energy efficiency, the use of alternative fuels and waste as aggregates, the recycling of waste material, and other sustainable initiatives. The various regional regulatory authorities are having problems with formulating and implementing appropriate policies. Then the private sector will really need to assist and lead in the B2B and B2C sustainable initiatives designed to measure, monitor, manage, and report on emissions data. Balancing the interests of stakeholders will always be a significant challenge, but the protection of resources is our moral obligation. This is not only godly stewardship, but it is our mission to be a force for good. In the longer term, stakeholders will appreciate and understand that this sustainable solution is the only solution. We must endeavor to deliver on this positive change. In 2009, YTL took its first steps to internally implement group-wide carbon mapping activities, which are still practiced up to this very day. We also set targets for many of our business units and report annually on progress of our major subsidiary, such as YTL Power Seraya and Wessex Water. We also have one Norma here with us. We actually recycle energy through braking systems and many other initiatives taken in ERL. Of course, we take 3.5 million cars off the road by having an ERL track. And hopefully, the Malaysian government is very serious about implementing the Singapore KL train, and that will further take more cars off the road. And we are praying that that project will be done by YTL or anybody, as long as it's done. We have also conducted major carbon mapping exercises for some of our key clients, such as plantation companies of Tan Sri Laos and many others, and have assisted in registering a record 28 CDM, which are Clean Development Mechanisms, and VCS, Voluntary Carbon Standard projects in South Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, being a force for good is not a zero-sum game. As Edmund Burke famously said, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. I strongly believe that what we are advocating here this morning is the right way for responsible businesses to move forward. And I genuinely trust that many Asian-based businesses will follow suit in this regard. May God bless and guide each and every one of us in our positive endeavors in this direction. Thank you very much.